This presentation on electric mobility in Latin America and the Caribbean is made by the Sustainable Mobility Unit of the United Nations Environment Programme, UNEP. UNEP promotes sustainable, low-emission transport and works to reduce the sector's contribution to air pollution and climate change. The introduction of electric vehicles, EVs, is one way to significantly reduce emissions from road transport. Combined with a transition to a renewable energy system, this will help countries meet their climate and air quality goals. Numerous governments around the world have already implemented or are considering measures to accelerate the uptake of EVs. UNEP, together with partners, including those from EU SOLUTIONSplus, are supporting developing and transitional countries shift from fossil fuel to electric vehicles. In Latin America and the Caribbean, we're currently implementing projects in 21 countries. This includes the development of policies, exchanging best practices, piloting of technology options, tracking electric vehicle uptake, calculating emissions and economic benefits, formulation of electric mobility roadmaps at national and regional levels, new business models and financing structures, as well as promoting interinstitutional and intersectoral articulation. Our work has 3 areas of focus: electric 2- and 3-wheelers, electric passenger vehicles, and light commercial vehicles and electric buses. To ensure the growth and uptake of electric mobility, countries need to be proactive. Policy leadership is key, and governments must advance a comprehensive policy agenda of public policy, regulation, and appropriate incentives that consider the various components of electric mobility. Targets and roadmaps are also required for the development of this new technology and market structure. While there is no one solution or approach, various economic and non-economic instruments can be used to encourage the import, purchase, and use of electric vehicles. Many of options together can provide a comprehensive policy, regulatory, and incentive framework for electric mobility. The interventions still required in the Latin America and Caribbean region have varying levels of priority. Amongst these policies and regulations to promote electric mobility in the region are 4 main ones. Under these are standardization and interoperability. As electric vehicle fleets and associated charging infrastructure increases, it becomes more necessary to promote interoperability and standardization of infrastructure, management systems, and charging commercialization. Secondly, vehicle circulation, such as access to bus lanes and preferential access to parking for EVs, are just some of the policies that can be adopted and promoted. Under taxes, incentives, and financial mechanisms, these can include fiscal incentives such as import tax reductions or CO2 or fuel economy-based vehicle registration taxes, grants and financial mechanisms for electric vehicles. And fourthly, complementary regulations and incentives such as incentivizing shared mobility services or regulation for second life and end-of-life issues for EV batteries. The countries across the region are already promoting some of these and adopting some of these policies and regulations at varying levels. The Latin American Caribbean region accounts for less than 10% of global emissions, and yet is extremely vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. As the most urbanized globally, with 80% of its population living in cities, transport is responsible for approximately half of the local pollution in the region's cities. The transport sector represents 15% of total greenhouse gas emissions, although under current policies, it is estimated that emissions could increase by 50% by 2050. This sector has a significant and growing carbon footprint, as well as a comparable emissions footprint from the power generation sector. Together, they account for 2/3 of emissions of fossil CO2 and about 1/4 of the total greenhouse gas emissions in 2018. Latin America and the Caribbean can greatly reduce transport emissions and improve urban air quality through the transition to electric mobility. The promotion of electric mobility implies a cross-cutting coordination between sectors. and the institutional synergies between the transport and energy sectors, for example, are fundamental to ensure optimal operation of technologies and business models. And with the high renewable energy generation matrix in the region, this transformation is very possible. The Latin America and Caribbean region is already focused on creating an enabling environment for the development and regulation of technologies, as well as to attract investment for electric mobility. Many countries in the region have set goals for the introduction of electric mobility. For example, in 2016, Chile adopted the National Electromobility Strategy, which establishes 5 lines of action to achieve the goal of electrifying 100% of the public transportation fleet in the capital Santiago by 2035, and the rest of the country by 2040. In addition, 40% of the private vehicle fleet is expected to be electrified by 2050. In 2018, a commitment was signed with more than 30 companies and institutions to promote electric mobility in the country. This commitment, which among other objectives sought to increase the number of electric vehicle charges by 5 times, was reiterated in January 2020 by 54 companies. Progress has been made at regional level through the approval of the electric mobility and energy efficiency regulations by the Latin American and Caribbean Parliament. At sub-regional level, the Central American Sustainable Energy Efficiency Strategy has been adopted, and this includes the adoption of electric mobility and the implementation of charging infrastructure in member countries of the Central American Integration System. At national and city level, several countries have adopted regulations to promote and facilitate the penetration of electric mobility, together with pilot projects for the deployment of this technology. These policies have promoted increased registrations of electric vehicles. Between January 2016 and September 2019, almost 6,000 light-duty electric vehicles were registered in the region. During this period, the largest volume of these registrations occurred in countries such as Colombia, Mexico, Costa Rica, and the Dominican Republic. These estimates exclude 2- and 3-wheeled vehicles. The electrification of public transport in most countries in the region is in the pilot phase. In other countries, it is already being deployed. At the end of 2020, around 2,000 electric buses are operating in the countries. Chile stands out as the country with the largest number of electric buses in the region, while other countries like Colombia already have fleets in operations. The standard e-bus, 12 to 15 meters, is the type of vehicle with the highest participation, followed by the trolley bus and then the minibus. In terms of vehicle manufacturers, the main brands in the region are currently from China. The level of progress of the LAC countries in terms of incentives vary. Costa Rica is the country that has completed and approved a full set of fiscal and non-fiscal incentives. Colombia has developed an electric mobility strategy, approved incentives for purchase of electric vehicles, adopted a regulation to increase the investments in charging stations, and allows the circulation of EVs without any traffic restrictions. Peru, for instance, is designing the purchase tax incentives for EVs together with a scheme of incentives in parking services. One of the fiscal incentives that is adopted by almost all countries in the region is the import tax reduction during the purchase of an electric vehicle. However, the region needs to work more on the promotion of circulation tax reductions for EVs and different electricity prices for charging EVs. Island states such as Antigua and Barbuda, Cuba, and Dominican Republic are also countries with more opportunities to implement incentives for promoting electric mobility. The Dominican Republic stands out with the introduction of a fleet of 200 electric taxis by the Unified Transporters National Central. By decarbonising the energy matrix and electrifying the entire transportation system by 2050, the region could avoid 1.1 billion tonnes of CO2 and save $621 billion per year, savings that would include reductions in expenses related to ground transportation, electricity and health by reducing air pollution in cities. While there is progress in the region, it is imperative to accelerate the transformation to more efficient and cleaner transport systems. This transition will bring several benefits, such as reducing pollution and vehicular congestion in cities, encouraging the development of renewable energies, green economic growth, and improving the overall well-being of citizens. Thank you very much for your attention.